Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to cover today. First and foremost, let's talk about what's happening out in the state of Florida as they have moved forward. A Florida court has approved a 6-week abortion ban. We'll give you the latest on that situation. Also, let's talk about Angel Reese from LSU. Her traumatic year, it was a heartbreaking loss that she experienced against Iowa on Monday. And she talked about how she has gone through a pivotal year. We'll talk a little bit about that. Also, let's talk about Amanda Seales and how her ongoing feud against Black media. 3 pieces were written about her and her likability, and it has put a spotlight on Black women in public spaces and being more likable. We'll have that conversation. And later on, how one California bill is empowering employees the right to disconnect. I'm going to share with you the details of that. So stay with us. This all happening on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. Woo! All right, folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we are streaming live. We're broadcasting live from the great city of Los Angeles. It is Wednesday, April the 3rd, and we thank you for joining us today and getting ready to be a part of the conversation. We got a lot to talk about, but first, let's talk about where we are streaming at. We are streaming first on our home network. Make sure y'all do your due diligence. Go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app for free. Follow us on social media at Black Star Network. And we ask that you put something in the pot to help us power through this digital space that we're in, to continue to bring you content and news and information that is just specifically designed for Black America while keeping everyone else in mind. So we ask that your support, because it means all the world to us. So go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com. Also, we're streaming live on Amazon platforms, first on your Amazon TV, on your Fire TV, on Amazon News. So make sure you check us out there, as well as Amazon Prime Video. You can find us there, folks, on the Prime Video app under Live TV, then News, or find us on Amazon.com under Prime Video, then Live TV, then News. We're also streaming on the Freevee network, where you can find us there on now under Freevee. So just check us out there on Black Star Network and on Plex TV, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just check us out on Plex TV, search for Black Star Network, or find us under Live TV, the News and Opinion. Now, we're also streaming on Big Brother Roland Martin's social media spaces, so you can check us out on his Facebook page as well as his YouTube channel. And on those places, you will find the illustrious Culture Crew. That's right, folks. You can join the culture and you could be a part of the conversation by being a part of the Online Culture Crew. And big shout out to the Online Culture Crew that's checking in right now from all around the country. Big shout out to the crew on the X platform, on Facebook, as well as YouTube. Let's give a little something for the crew there. A little horns, a little something to welcome them to the show, because they make up the show and they make the show so good. Big shout out to Pauline Hurt. I see you. Deidre Hall, Pastor Damon Bissett. I see you. Official Sanique. I see you. Who we got? Tamora Thomas Link. Hello from Louisiana. Tamora, thank you so much for checking in. Thank you for being here. We got Tiana, Michelle Jean. I see you. Who else we got here? Brian Christian, my brother. Thank you for checking in. Cindy D. I see you. Thank you for checking in. Frankie, good evening. Grand evening, Frankie, grand evening to you, sir. And I see you again, Cindy D. And folks, you can join us in the conversation as we have these discussions. Now, we're also joined by my sister, who joins me here every Wednesday. She is a licensed attorney for the state of Florida. She is the host of the Suzette Speaks Show on YouTube. She's a political and a strategist in the southern part of the country. And she also has a new radio show that's going to be that's going up there. My sister Suzette Speaks is in the building, on the chat, all of that.
Yes.
What's your radio station? I gotta put this out here.
Listen, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, what's up? Represent 305 in the building. I'm so excited, Farajii. I'll be joining. This is the Caribbean American Radio FM station, 24/7 FM In Fort Lauderdale, it's 102.1. North Miami, Hollywood, 102.3. Miami, 99.7. We have call letters also in Port St. Lucie, as well as Vero Beach and Orlando. So I'm super excited. Thursdays and Fridays, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. live on INI Radio, Voice of the Caribbean. So I'm really excited about it. Yeah, let's go.
Let's go.
Yes.
Let's
Appreciate
go.
the love.
Absolutely. All right, Suzette, first and foremost, let's talk a little bit about this first story that is coming out of the state of Florida, something that you brought my attention to, but it has always been a controversial issue, which is the abortion issue. And the Florida Supreme Court is moving forward on taking a big step to try to handle this situation, because this is both political, but it is also, I think it's a human rights issue as well, just because of it's pertaining to the woman's body, it's pertaining to a woman's ability to make decisions and have agency over her body. So let's talk a little bit about this before we take our first pause. Let me just throw this out here, where the Florida Supreme Court, they upheld a 15-week ban on abortion, folks, in the state, while also, according to the report, also allowing a proposed amendment that would essentially codify the abortion protections in the state constitution, to even appear on the November ballot. Now, this is a two-part situation. You have this 6-week abortion ban, but then you also are going to be putting it to the voters on the ballot in November. We got to take our first pause, but when we come back, I want to get your take on this, because this is right there in your home state. And more importantly, this is important for the rest of the country. And I want you to talk to us about that and how this is so significant. Folks, we want you to join us in the discussion right now as we're streaming live on Big Brother Roland Martin's YouTube page and his Facebook page. Make sure you join us in the chat, post your comments, share your thoughts and your questions, and let's get into it. It's still the first half of the show. You're tuned into The Culture right here on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media and investment. This next-generation social app has already raised $10 million and has just opened a new round to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
As bad as Trump was, his economy was worse, and Black America felt it the most. He cut health insurance while giving tax breaks to the wealthy and big business. He stoked racial violence, attacked voting rights, and if reelected, vowed to be a dictator and, quote, get revenge. We can't go back. As president, I put money in pockets, creating millions of new jobs, and capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. There's a lot more to do, but we can do it together. I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
Game on. State of the Union 2024. Huge night for President Joe Biden.
This was a CVS receipts type of night.
He dragged the hell out of the Supreme Court. And he said, y'all gonna see the power of women.
Trump's brain is melting as we speak.
We want to organize from a place of strength.
There's no confusion whatsoever about what they've done and what they plan to do.
What Donald Trump is doing is presenting a fallacy.
He is convincing them that he's all in it for them, when in fact he's all in it for himself.
We do not feel Joe Biden, in spite of the success that have taken place during this administration economically. There are too many things where we do not feel like he's had our back.
You should also be investing in the barbershops and the beauty salons and the hookah bars and the folks who are going to the club, and there's a way to actually get them registered because we've done it before. But if you don't have folks who understand that dynamic, then you're missing a big opportunity.
So we said we just celebrated
For what? Why don't you go to Selma to celebrate rather than recommit yourself to the fight if the very thing we went to celebrate has been gutted?
Republicans did not support a lot of the bills that were necessary to keep the country fluid. You can't only love your country when you win it, right?
Oh, no. You guys don't want another $2 trillion tax cut?
This was absolutely the knockdown, drag out that we were really waiting for.
Black voters are the base. They're the most important base of the Democratic Party. There was very few language in this speech. At a time we see an attack on black history, attack on DEI. The end of the BLM racial reckoning thing has come to a complete end because there was nothing in this speech for that.
Our movement has never been grounded in two-party politics in this country. All of our movements ultimately get co-opted by a state that is anti-black.
They called the old because they knew the way, and they called the young because they were strong. And I believe there is a good combination of that, but we can have ideas and we can have visions and dreams, but we have to have our young people also working beside us because they are strong, and they will run that race, and they will run it to the end.
Activists, organizers, and young people have been pushing this administration to be on the right side of history and to do something about the issues that they care about.
While the Ukraine and Palestine are critical issues, they are not the only global issues.
Not a single black person who should ever let it come out their mouth that I'm tired. Because there is somebody else who came before us who didn't stop fighting.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. I truly appreciate it. We are joined by my sister, Suzette Speaks. You can hear her and check her out here every Wednesday here on The Culture. And Suzette brings a ton of expertise and know-how about a lot of these topics. And today we're kicking off the conversation talking about what's happening in the state of Florida as the Florida Supreme Court moves forward to approve a 6-week abortion ban in the state. And this is a big deal. Not only are they approving this 6-week abortion ban, but they're also putting it up to be on the ballot come November, so voters can decide if this is going to be a part of the state's constitution. So, Suzette, break this down for us in terms of why this decision is significant and the impact that it's going to make, and how you think the voters are going to play, how it's going to turn out for the voters.
So thank you, Farajii, for that synopsis. There were two things going on at the same time, two different matters and issues that were presented to the Florida Supreme Court. There are 7 members of the Florida Supreme Court. And in the first ruling, they decided on a petition that was heard that was challenging the 2022 law that changed Florida's right to a pregnancy termination to 15 weeks. So that was what was really in front of them. That came out of the Florida Republican-led legislature that created a law that said 15 weeks would now be the law of the land. Now, since then, in the next session, the next lawmaking session in 2023, they voted again. The Republican-led Florida legislature, the Florida House and Florida Senate voted again and then moved it to 6. So although this was now a petition before the Florida Supreme Court about the 15-week ban, indirectly, because they now approved it 5-2, it would also deem the following year's law, the 2023 law, to also be constitutional. So the plaintiffs in this case were trying to argue that Florida, in its constitution, has a right to privacy. Right? We've had this right to privacy explicit in the Florida Constitution for decades. But the state Supreme Court said no, that this type of right, this reproductive freedom right, is not a part of the privacy right in the state of Florida. Therefore, now, in effect, in 30 days, or now it's like 28 days from the ruling, from the date of the ruling, the 6-week ban, as a matter of law, will go into effect. So from now until November, if the voters vote in the opposite direction, we'll get into the second issue that was before the Florida Supreme Court. So right now, the law of the land is an effective ban. There is no more reproductive freedom, in essence, that women will have in their decisions with their doctor. So now the second piece is that Florida has a system of ballot initiatives where citizens can make laws as well. They can create a law by the ballot. They get enough signatures, that is, to put it forward for the ballot for the general population to vote on it to see if it should be a part of the state constitution. Here in Florida, there are a couple major ones that just got approval also. There's one for legalization of recreational marijuana, which also the Supreme Court approved for it to be on the November 5th ballot. But in addition, it also approved the reproductive freedom amendment to be a part of the Florida Constitution, to be considered to be a part of the Florida Constitution as well. What does that mean? So Florida voters will have the final say, right? So right now, the Florida legislature had its law upheld, right? So 6 weeks is the law of the land. But on November 5th, when everybody goes to vote for president, the ballot initiative asking the voters whether or not they believe this should be a right that should be entered in the Florida state constitution will also go before the voters for approval or disapproval. And in that ballot initiative process, it will take 60% of the voters during that election to pass it, of voters total during the election. So reproductive freedom advocates are quite encouraged because oftentimes you will see, very grassroots efforts to help educate the voter to understand what's going on and hopefully to support this ballot initiative. We've had many others that have passed successfully, restoration of rights for the formerly incarcerated. We actually had a legalization bill, not for recreational, but legalization of marijuana bill that passed through ballot initiative as well. But again, this will be on the ballot in November. But until then, 6-week ban, which is basically most women don't know that they're pregnant in that time period, right? So Florida, North Carolina, and I believe, let me see, the other state, there were 3 left that were 15 weeks or more. Now, it's like across the South, reproductive freedom has been shut down in essence, because again, most don't know that they're pregnant at that time. I want to, after we come back from break, I had the privilege of attending House Democratic Steering Committee and Policy meeting here in Fort Lauderdale yesterday that talked about reproductive freedom. Yes, I would like to highlight some of the facts that were brought up there. Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz led that, and she invited down New York Congressman Hakeem Jeffries and other colleagues to come forward. And it was a room full at the Broward County Governmental Center, which is downtown Fort Lauderdale, to talk more about what's happening and what, in this case, U.S. House Democrats are trying to do to codify this right.
That is something else. Look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, more conversation where Suzette speaks about the situation of abortion in the state of Florida, this latest decision from the Florida Supreme Court, the impact that voters can make on reproductive freedom. And I want to get your take on this as well, Cruz. So post your comments, share your thoughts, ask your questions, and let's continue the conversation on the other side here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media and investment. This next generation social app has already raised $10 million and has just opened a new round to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
As bad as Trump was, his economy was worse, and Black America felt it the most. He cut health insurance while giving tax breaks to the wealthy and big business. As president, I put money in pockets and capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. There's a lot more to do, but we can do it together.
I need you to scream for your new beginning. 5, 4, 3, 2. I need you to shout for it. I need you to shout for it. It won't always be like this. Sooner or later, it's gonna work in your brother's favor, in your sister's favor. They shall not die Welcome to the greatest season of your life. Hug somebody. Welcome.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. For the first story, we've been talking about what's happening in the state of Florida as the Florida Supreme Court moves forward on approving the 6-week ban for abortion in the state, while also allowing a proposed amendment to go onto the November ballot, where voters will have a chance to codify protections and can be inserted in the state's constitution. Now, this is, I've been talking about this with my sister, Suzette Speaks, as we have this conversation. And folks, I want you to join in as well. Post your comments, share your thoughts and your questions. And we'll have our sister Suzette, try to respond to as many questions as possible. But this is something, you talked about this very quickly, and I want to hear more about that meeting that the Democrats had. But looking back at how this whole situation is playing out, not even going back to Roe v. Wade, how do you, if reproductive freedoms is shrinking in like the states of Florida and other parts of the country, especially in the southern parts of the country, how are these conversations had, not just with advocates, but say with young women, with students? I'm wondering how was that part of the discussion moving forward?
It is terrifying, Farajii, which is really what I think I got from the hearing yesterday. It was impressed upon me how very difficult it is for physicians and doctors to make these decisions, as well as for women who don't have economic means to make these decisions. Yesterday during the hearing, there were 2 women that gave very harrowing stories about their experiences in not being able to get the medical care, because what people don't realize is termination of pregnancy or abortion is medical care. Oftentimes, we'll see in the Florida Constitution, what is now the law, is that the mother's life being in danger is one exception. But because it's not very clear and there's so many medical nuances to what that means, you have doctors from hospital, from location to location, having to make very difficult calls about when a mother's life is in danger. I heard testimony yesterday from a young lady from an area called Coral Springs, which is close to Parkland, as we know, where the Parkland school shooting happened. A Black woman said that because her vital signs were still pretty normal and the baby still had a heartbeat, even though due to the baby's condition, it was not going to be a viable pregnancy. The doctor told her she would have to have something like preeclampsia or something very significant as far as the change of her vital signs before she could get a termination of pregnancy. In her testimony, she talked about going to get her hair done just in case she passed away, so that her mom wouldn't have to worry about it, because she knew a baby was dying inside her, but she could not get the care. Another young lady was part of the panel yesterday and talked about her baby having no kidneys. And the doctor knew from about a few weeks into the pregnancy, your baby's not going to survive. I'm sorry, man, unless she can get a kidney transplant, which at that age and that stage is highly unlikely. And the baby will pass away in a few hours after birth. But what also was very unique about her pregnancy is that because there were no kidneys, the baby never had any amniotic fluid. Amniotic fluid is created through the baby's urine. So because the baby had no kidneys, she had a baby that was basically strapped to her abdomen, and she couldn't get a termination up until she actually had to have the baby 30 some weeks, when they knew 10 weeks out what was going on with the baby, or even earlier. So she had the child psychologically, she talked about the impact, as well as how it was basically wrenching against all her organs with no sac of fluid to protect it. Knowing that it was going to be a non-viable fetus, having to explain to her 4-year-old that mommy's baby still, it's in her belly still, but it's going to be an angel, et cetera, et cetera. Had a young lady testify about how infertility, and a lot of people especially women of color, have endometriosis, have other polycystic ovarian syndrome, other types of conditions that make it difficult to get pregnant. And so the infertility community was represented by actually a friend and colleague that I recommended for this hearing. And a friend of mine, Sandra Elidor, talked about her struggle in her 20s to get pregnant, and how with the current laws now, oftentimes there are embryos that cannot be used, et cetera, et cetera. There are people that would rather not serve you in the infertility community because they don't know what the outcomes are going to be if and when a baby may not be viable for the mother. There were so many different stories, tears in the audience. It was quite stirring, quite moving, and factual. And what is not being said when they put so-called exceptions like the one we have in Florida and in Texas, 1 out of every 10 women of childbearing age live in Texas. Remember, the Texas law right now is that a doctor or a physician or anyone who drives a woman to and from a termination of pregnancy can be held liable, can be sued. And now in Florida, we have about 4 million women of childbearing ages. And we think about the amount of people that get nationwide this type of care. It's about, I think they said Florida had about 10% of the terminations in the entire country. So thinking about this, I've been reading articles about women saying, you know, you got to really think about what you're going to do. In the testimony yesterday, it was asked by, I think it was Congressman Jared Moskowitz from Fort Lauderdale. He asked one of the witnesses, hey, did anybody tell you to get on a plane because you couldn't possibly carry this baby from like the 6-week mark when you knew that the fetus wouldn't be viable to the 30-some week mark? She said yes. Her physician couldn't advise her, but said, you know, New York, other states might be a possibility, but you have to have the money, the time off, the ability to find a doctors who are also inundated in the states that are allowing this type of medical care. It is really heart-wrenching because, again, the idea that is being spun is that people willy-nilly are just going in for this type of procedure. Oftentimes, especially when we talked about it last week, mifepristone and other things are used by people who have already had kids. Majority of people who take the abortion pill are women who have already had children in their lives, right?
Wow.
And there are a lot of complications. And again, these laws are not specific as to what the life of the mother means. And so a lot of times doctors are waiting to the very end, putting women's lives in jeopardy in the balance. And you think to yourself, do I have a right to exist? And we talk about freedom, or our Republican colleagues oftentimes talk about freedom and things that say, you know, government shouldn't be in your life. Government shouldn't be, you know, in your business, but they want government in the womb. And so when it comes to these medical decisions, it's going to be so difficult because most women do not know. It was asked yesterday, and I know we got to take a break, whether or not the 6-week ban would affect, how would it affect, you know, there were several doctors on the dais, and he was like, I've never had to perform one for someone under 6 weeks because people don't know. So it's an effective ban, if you will, is basically what they're saying. This could be interpreted as a complete ban because most people will not have that information. They will not have missed a cycle, et cetera, et cetera. And then if something is wrong with the baby, there's no provision for this. They have to carry it to term and doctors can't touch them. We've lost freedom here. Women have lost freedom in the state of Florida.
Damn. Suzette, I mean, I appreciate you and I thank you for giving us that report, but it is heart-wrenching to say the least that, I mean, we just went back 50, 60 years. We just went back 50, 60 years to a point where it's like, damn, man, like, and you know, we got to take a quick pause, but I am going to be really interested to see how this is going to affect not just Black women, but just women in general. More importantly, is there going to be some sort of political blowback, whether it's going to be, you know, putting new people in office on a local level, on a state level, which, I mean, something has to happen because this is
life and death.
This is life and death. Real talk.
Pregnancy, the African parable says that pregnancy puts a woman on the edge of life, and it's real. We think because of medical advancement, every baby is just born. Every woman carries the term. That's not real. Our grandmothers lost a lot of pregnancies. A lot of women lost their lives just because there is no quote abortion by law. People all over the world know how to get what they need to get done. This is a thing that has been around since the beginning of time, but medically there are cases that need for it to happen to save the mother's life, or when there are conditions that the baby cannot be saved. Why are we making people carry babies to term that could literally jeopardize their life? We got to take a break, Farajii.
We got to take a break. Stay with us, folks. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media and investment. This next generation social app has already raised $10 million and has just opened a new round to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
I have something I want to tell you. I am running for president.
Of the United States? Holy.
I'm paving the road for a lot of other people looking like me to get elected.
Brooklyn's first black representative.
You're about to make history.
You want to be president? You ain't no man.
Maybe we should find your mother. All you got is your one vote.
You sound just like every other politician.
Do I look like every other politician?
Truly, you can't win.
And why can't I win? I have an opportunity to make a difference.
This isn't a campaign. It's a joke. The only thing anybody's gonna remember is that there were a bunch of black folks who made fools of themselves.
See too much suffering. And I don't know how to not try.
We're living it proud.
I don't think I'm special. I just want to remind people what's possible.
We need something that's going to make some noise.
The Black Panthers and Shirley Chisholm. It's like thunder and lightning. I'm going to force all the politicians to be held accountable.
You're gonna do all that. School teacher from Brooklyn.
Harriet was just a slave. Rosa was just a domestic. What is it you do for a living again? The people of America are watching us.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by my sister, Suzette Speaks. And Suzette has been giving us a report and the update on the ongoing dilemma of reproductive freedoms in the state of Florida, especially in light of this latest decision from the Florida Supreme Court that has moved forward to allow a 6-week ban, abortion bans, and to happen, and also is putting this proposed amendment on the ballot in November. And I'm just giving as much time as we can, Suzette, because I feel like this is such an important issue. We already know about the overturning of Roe v. Wade, but thinking about future girls that are going to grow up to be women in the state of Florida, in the state of Texas, and all across this country, the ongoing, I would say the ongoing movement to try to restrict women and girls from making decisions on their own. And our sister, one of our great culture crew members, Karen Connor, checked in and said this: and welcome to the chat, Karen. You said, Karen, the legislatures are not medical professionals and should not be allowed to make these decisions. Women must be proactive to avoid harm to themselves due to this harmful legislation.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, Karen is right. And looking at some more numbers, now there are approximately 23 million women who live in states with abortion bans, right? And I'm looking at the type of blowback we're seeing in Florida, which again becomes effective in the next 30 days. There are exceptions. People are going to say you're not giving me the whole story, so I'm going to say there is an exception. This is interesting. For rape and incest, if reported to the police, and we know about 79%, they say rapes are unreported, and then we're looking up to 24 weeks allowable if the mother's life is in danger. But again, the medical professionals that have to make the call on when a woman's life is in danger so that they avoid liability is really what puts women in the crosshairs, right? Again, to me, this is medical care, right? But again, people are framing it as a religious type of argument. My response to that is, if you don't want one, don't get one. But why are you keeping someone else who may medically need it from getting one? That's the real key. Do you believe in freedom or don't you? And again, how did this become law? Our very conservative Supreme Court overturned the precedent of Roe v. Wade and left it up to the states. Now we have a patchwork of states now slowly but surely banning this right for women. So women have to make a very conscientious decision about what they are doing in terms of planning ahead. Again, the IVF community is very afraid because during that process, you have to create embryos, and not all embryos survive, or they may be planted and they kind of, have all their, complications. So again, the medical side of it is that you can't even legislate in detail all the things that might go wrong with a baby or with a mom. You can't there would be too many to put into a law, right? Yeah. So this is now leaving it up to physicians. You have less physicians, as I heard in the testimony during the House Committee, Steering Committee policy meeting in Fort Lauderdale yesterday. One of the doctors reported about the OBGYN practices that he's seeing. More people leave that, general medicine as well as OB practice, obstetrics and gynecology, and how you're going to have physicians, because less and less folks are pursuing it. There won't have the opportunity to have more places to train to know what to do if they are to perform this type of medical procedure. You understand? So why would you come to a medical school here in Florida? Why would you go to places where you won't be exposed to certain type of medical procedures, which are ultimately necessary to save babies' lives, to save mothers' lives? However, the chips fall, these things are kind of like, it's literally an act of God many times, whether you can make this move or not make that move, but they are afraid, and physicians are going to start to move away and also avoid this practice area, which again decreases the accessibility for women, which is the goal, which is really the goal. So again, we cannot be, what I love about this, again, the Supreme Court took away one thing and gave us another bite at the apple. It comes back to the voters November 5th to codify in the state constitution reproductive freedom rights is going to go to the voter on November 5th. It will be on the ballot right along with the president and U.S. senators and everybody else. So there is a chance that the Florida voter will have the final say on this. But as of right now, like I said, it is for all intents and purposes a total ban, because most people don't know that they're pregnant by the time 6 weeks rolls around.
Let me ask you this very quickly, Suzette. What's the likelihood that the Florida voter, especially women Florida voters, are going to feel empowered to go to the polls and say, you know what, we want our freedom back? What's that likelihood?
I think a lot of advocacy groups are really encouraged, because I don't have the numbers right in front of me, to get the ballot initiative to get this initiative on the ballot for the voters to vote on took 1 million signatures. And I knew of the percentage that were actually Republican registered women, right? So tons of Republican women signed up to put this on the ballot in November, signed a petition, right? Because this is basically adding to the Constitution via the petition mechanism that is allowed. Get as many voters as you can to sign the petition. The Supreme Court has to approve the language or say it's, you know, vague or it can't go on, it's unconstitutional, whatever. And they approved it now again for November 5th. So based on the interest of people who already signed that petition, they have a certain amount of time. It was a deadline earlier to get the amount of necessary signatures, and they got it. So the fact that people were already, you know, inclined, people of all parties across the board are inclined to support this. They feel, I think, based on what I'm reading in several articles, they are very energized by it and thinking that this is something that can pass by the 60%. But that's what it's going to take on November 5th in Florida. Tell your homegirls, anybody you know, and men too, men for reproductive rights too. Again, if you haven't seen or heard of folks who have, I've met women, Farajii, who literally down to the 9th month, and not to say that they could have had a termination, but like lost babies. The baby was due next week. I know 2 women like that, like all the way to the end of their pregnancy, and because something happened medically within the baby system, they lost the child. Like people don't share those stories. I think there's a lot of shame, especially Black women. That's why I had asked for my friend and colleague to be one of the people that testify, because oftentimes we don't speak up about it. There's a lot of shame around it, and people don't necessarily openly. They'll tell you the story quietly. This happened to me. This is what happened to my mom. This happened to my grandma. But sometimes we're afraid because of social pressure. But I think, again, this is to me either pro-freedom or against freedom. That's what it's about. And again, access to healthcare that is necessary, or preventing women from getting necessary healthcare. That's how I view it. And I think there are going to be a lot of people who agree with that. Perhaps again, this Supreme Court in Florida, I think 3 appointees out of the 7 were Ron DeSantis appointees. I read a quick article that told me that a couple of them may have had perceived conflicts of interest. That one is married to Justice Kennedy, is married to the state representative that proposed the 6-week ban in legislation, but he did not recuse himself. There's another person again on the Supreme Court that I saw had a conflict or possible conflict of interest. Anyway, these 3 conservative justices didn't recuse themselves, and here we are with the 6-week ban implemented. Again, North Carolina was the other state. South Carolina also rolled it back. Now Florida rolled it back. So effectively, it's wiped out in the southern states as we know it right now.
That's crazy. So, and that's where a lot of our women are. That's where a lot of Black women are. Exactly. That's where that is where a lot of our people are. Look, we're gonna have to keep our eyes on this. Of course, Suzette will continue to bring us the latest and bring us updates. But folks, it just gives us a wake-up call that we do have some important things to still, a lot of work to do and before we get to November 5th. Look, we got to take a final pause for the first hour. Stay with us. On the other side, let's talk about Angel Reese. Let's talk about Amanda Seales and so much more. You're tuned into The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media and investment. This next generation social app has already raised $10 million and has just opened a new round to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
As bad as Trump was, his economy was worse, and Black America felt it the most. He cut health insurance while giving tax breaks to the wealthy and big business. He stoked racial violence, attacked voting rights, and if reelected, vowed to be a dictator and, quote, get revenge. We can't go back. As president, I put money in pockets, creating millions of new jobs, and capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. There's a lot more to do, but we can do it together. I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
Terry and I, we couldn't play in the white clubs in Minnesota. It felt like such a, strength through adversity type moment that I think Black people just have to go through. You know, we have to figure it out. You know,
Right.
we make lemons out of lemonade. But there's a reason we rented a ballroom, did our own show, promoted it, got like 1,500 people to come out. Clubs were sitting empty. They were like, "Where's everybody at?" And they said, "They're down watching the band you wouldn't hire." So it taught us not only that we had the talent of musicians, but we also had to have the talent of entrepreneurship. It wasn't like a seat at the table. It's like, no, let's build the table.
That's right.
We got to build the table. And,
That's right.
And that was the thing. And of course, after that, we got all kinds of offers.
Of course.
Right, to come play in the clubs. But we didn't do it. We
You're
said,
like, no, we good.
No, we're good. We're good. And that's what put us on a path of national. And of course, when Prince made it, then it was like, okay, we see it can be done.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation, folks. We've had a fantastic first half of the show where our sister Suzette Speaks brought us the latest details and latest developments in this ongoing dilemma around the abortion and freedom, reproductive freedom in the state of Florida. If you had missed that part of the discussion, make sure you be a part of Team Replay. Go back and check it out. A lot of great information that our sister Suzette shared with us as she was in a meeting yesterday and talking to Democrats and folks about what impact that this latest Supreme Court decision will make on the state of Florida and on the decision and the agency and the rights of women in the state of Florida. Not just Black women, just women across the board. So it is very, very important for us to stay informed about that. And we thank our sister Suzette again for bringing us that latest report. Now, folks, we're streaming live on a whole lot of different spaces. But first, go to our website at blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app for free. Follow us on social media at Black Star Network. And we would love to get your support and your donation. And speaking of support and donation, we already have gained 2 more donors to join us in this movement that we are embarked upon. So big shout out to Panama Sun and Skull 13. Thank you so much for your donations, being a part of the Bring the Phone fan club at a level 1 and joining us here on the Black Star Network. You heard the type of conversation and the content, and you said, you know what, let me put some money where their mouth is and support these folks, and we cannot thank you enough. So big shout out again to Panama Sun, Skull 13. Thank you so much for your donations to Black Star Network, and we truly, truly appreciate it. All right, let's jump back into the conversations. Got my sister Suzette Speaks, licensed attorney, host of the Suzette Speaks show on YouTube. She's also a radio show host, along with being a Politico. She does your resume getting too long, Suzette. It's getting long.
I'm real Jamaican. We got about 25.
No, you did not say that. No, you did not say that. All right, let's talk a little bit. Let's switch gears now. We're going to still continue to talk about our sisters. Let's talk about LSU superstar Angel Reese and her traumatic year. I want to share with you what she shared at the end of that heartbreaking loss against Iowa on Monday. Take a listen.
And I just try to stand strong for my teammates because I don't want them to see me down and like not be there for them. So I just want to always just know, like, I'm still a human. Like, all this has happened since I won the national championship. And I said the other day, I haven't had peace since then. And it sucks, but I still wouldn't change. I wouldn't change anything, and I would still sit here and say, like, I'm unapologetically me. I'm going to always leave that mark and be who I am and stand on that. And hopefully the little girls that look up to me, and hopefully I give them some type of inspiration that, hopefully it's not this hard and all the things that come at you, but keep being who you are. Keep waking up every day. Keep being motivated, staying who you are, staying 10 toes, don't back down, and just be confident.
That was Angel Reese in the press conference after the Monday night's game, where her team, the LSU, did not make it through the Elite Eight of March Madness. But this was a rough one. This was a tough one to watch because Angel Reese has been the target of a lot of different levels of harassment. She was at hate speech. She said she received death threats and everything. For you, what does this say about where we are? We just finished talking about reproductive freedoms and rights for women. Now we're talking about how women are treated in the culture and in society. And it just goes to show us, like, something that I've been taught since I was a little boy, that, no nation can rise higher than its woman. And we're still seeing this, that women are the target of such hatred, and it is just mind blowing. And this is a young sister. I got word today, and I don't know if you saw this with your sources, that she has officially declared to be a part of the WNBA.
She will enter the draft. Yes.
So to enter the draft. So she's moving forward with her career. But how does this play out as a young Black woman and the way she is with who she is? How does this play out? What do you see?
Well, I think the biggest alarm bell that had been rung about this very subject matter was through the critique of an LA Times writer who has since now retracted his statement, or should I say apologized for his statement. But there was an article that was written in the Los Angeles Times by one Mr. Ben Block. I don't know if I'm saying his last name right, but he wrote an article before this game. This was when there were the LSU Tigers ladies basketball was in the Sweet 16, and they were going against UCLA. And just to look at some of the language that he used to describe the ladies of the LSU Tigers, it was quite frightening. And so much so, Bolch, Bolch is his last name. But he, in this article that was an op-ed piece, again, now it has been retracted, or some of the language used has been redacted in the revised version of the story. It's behind a paywall as well now. The LA Times put it behind a paywall. But in the original article, he used language that basically put UCLA Bruins, and for the significance, and we are going to have to take a quick break, but the significance of this being that it's more so a predominantly white basketball team. The Bruins are what he would describe as showing a lot of class and America's sweethearts. These are quotes from their Milk and Cookies as describing that team. And he described LSU ladies basketball players, that their women's team were basketball villains, Louisiana hot sauce, and the feather in the cap, dirty debutantes was the language he used. And it just reeks of misogyny, misogynoir, which is anti-Blackness, anti-Black womanness. And we can talk about more after the break, but he has since retracted. But it set off a storm. It was like a race war on Twitter, basically, based on what he was trying to, pigeonhole these women as being a stereotype of evil or, anti-American. We know these tropes. We've heard them before. And again, the predominantly white team, again, as being American sweethearts. And it was really caustic and dehumanizing. And he has since had to apologize. So we can discuss it more after the break.
We're going to definitely discuss it more. And I can't even, it's hard for me to, before this article, that was the same narrative. And that was the same frame that was used last year when LSU and Iowa met for the national championship, that level of comparison. We got to talk a little bit more about this. Folks, I want you to join us in the conversation. Post your comments, share your thoughts and your questions as we talk about Angel Reese's traumatic year here on The Culture on the Black Star Network. We'll be right back.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media and investment. This next generation social app has already raised $10 million and has just opened a new round to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
As bad as Trump was, his economy was worse, and Black America felt it the most. He cut health insurance while giving tax breaks to the wealthy and big business. As president, I put money in pockets and capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. There's a lot more to do, but we can do it together.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by my sister, Suzette Speaks, as we talk about LSU superstar Angel Reese and how she gave a very, very heartbreaking post-game interview after that big loss against Iowa on Monday night. And in that interview, she shared that even though she has gone through a heck of a lot. I mean, she experienced death threats. She experienced being sexualized. She has been called all types of racial names and whatnot, that she's still going to persevere, but that it has been a hard year since her team won the national championship in 2023 all the way up to this point. And it just goes to show you, Suzette, as you wanted to kind of say, Farajii, I think we need to really talk about this. It just goes to show you that we aren't as far advanced as we like to. I don't know if this is like, I've been reading so many think pieces and whatnot about Black women who are undergone so much scrutiny and pressure. I mean, everything from hair discrimination to dealing with misogynoir, as you talked about, dealing with this level of bullying and this level of pressure. I mean, and we're going to talk about another story with Amanda Seals. And it's like, damn, can a Black woman live? I mean, I'm a Black man. Like, damn, let the sisters live. Like, we're in a very, very interesting time. And I'm not quite sure what does this mean? What is this leading up to? But if we look at Angel Reese, and Angel Reese, she came from Baltimore County. She transferred from University of Maryland to go to LSU. And in Baltimore, man, folks back home, they love her. They love her. They love the swag. They love all that she brings and everything. But it's still not acceptable. And when you're talking about basketball, when you're talking about making money, you still have to kind of conform to a certain type of to certain restrictions and who you want to be. And I'm seeing some pushback from a lot of Black women, especially the athletes, that are saying enough is enough. I'm not going to play by your rules. I play the game the way I play the game, and I'm going to be the person that I need to be. But this is a traumatic year for our system.
Yeah, I'm really proud of this generation of Black women because, again, we have to remember these ladies are like 20, 21, 22. They are, in fact, college students, and these are grown people who are writers at major publications and media outlets around the country that are leveling this, level of what most people could characterize as sexism and racism. And the fact that it had to be called out in the public square for this man, again, this was an editorial piece, and now his editorial board is stating that it did not meet the standards of what they subscribed to as a paper, even though it was editorial. I'm like, did it take the public outcry first? Who's in that room first and foremost? first and foremost, as we talk about DEI and things that are being attacked, why was this allowed to be published in the first place? Also, to give people who are not following or maybe don't know some of the history, that, you know, Angel Reese was matched up last year, right? Not in this current March Madness, but in last year's tournament. She ended up facing off with Iowa State's, you know, darling and amazing player, Caitlin Clark. And it was during that game that we first kind of heard some of these tropes of her being like classless, doing the exact same thing that Caitlin Clark was doing, right? And it was this kind of hand sign, you don't see me, I don't see you, like, you know, the trash talk that goes with, you know, sports. And I think there's a part of it where, you know, people are not used to seeing women trash talk. And they both have said off camera, or excuse me, off the court, that on camera, but off the court, they're not enemies. You know, they're cool actually. And but when it's game time, right? When it's time to put it all on the line, there are no friends. You know, we play, you know, blood, sweat, and tears left out there on the court. But it's uncomfortable for some people to watch. I think, again, her aesthetic has a lot to do with it. Bold, beautiful lashes, bold, beautiful hair. Not in any way. She calls herself the Bayou Barbie. She had no desire to conform to what America, or excuse me, certain writers at certain publications express that America's sweethearts should look like or should act like. So she got a lot of pushback. Now, there are people, I'll try to keep this balanced, who have stated, and again, this is on social media, just seeing lots of comments here, there, and everywhere, that stated, you know, she set herself up to be a villain. You know, when she first spoke out last year after the finals, after winning the national championship, you know, there was a lot of hubris and, you know, brashness when she said, I take me or leave me, love me or hate me, this is who I am. And that there was a part of her kind of embracing that image as the underdog. But I think it can be interpreted other ways as well. Again, with with college level sports, even, there is a level of competitiveness that goes with the game. Again, maybe sometimes women are not allowed that space as readily to show their competitiveness, and therefore that can be interpreted or misinterpreted as being the bad guy or the bad gal, just because they won't back down, or just because they're not, again, concerned with being likable. And that we'll get into the story that we're going to get into with the Amanda Seales story. But I do think just seeing how much raw emotion that she showed, this has been a lot of a weight for her to carry, right? Heavy is the head that wears the crown. When you're the championship winner from last year, there was a lot of pressure throughout this year's tournament. So they met with Caitlin Clark Monday, and unfortunately they weren't successful. And that was right after that statement was right after her loss there in the Elite Eight. So there was a lot of pressure for her to win. Caitlin Clark, that was a good game. Caitlin Clark was.
It was a good game. It was a good game.
Give credit where credit is. Their night. But I don't think, you know, there was that racial element. Even one of her classmates her teammates was saying, and she's one of the few white women on the LSU Tigers team. She came out and she was like, this was racist towards my teammates. This is not fair. This is not a valid criticism. This is because they don't look like what you want them to look like or sound like or come from where you want them to come from. And so it should be called out as such, and it should be, summarily dismissed. I also want to point out before, maybe after we go to break.
Let's take a quick pause.
Dave Johnson had to say at that press conference. I thought it was a wonderful demonstration of sisterhood.
No, that's absolutely correct. And the person that comes to my mind on this, Suzette, is Sha'Carri Richardson.
Same, very similar, absolutely.
Sha'Carri Richardson, or is it Sha'Carri? I don't want to mess it up because she's very particular. She's like, it's Sha'Carri.
Right, I think it's Sha'Carri.
But I think Sha'Carri Richardson. We're going to talk about it more, folks. I know crew members, y'all got something to say about this as we talk about Angel Reese's traumatic year. Post your comments and stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
As bad as Trump was, his economy was worse, and Black America felt it the most. He cut health insurance while giving tax breaks to the wealthy and big business. He stoked racial violence, attacked voting rights, and if reelected, vowed to be a dictator and, quote, get revenge. We can't go back. As president, I put money in pockets, creating millions of new jobs, and capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. There's a lot more to do, but we can do it together. I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media and investment. This next generation social app has already raised $10 million and has just opened a new round to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney, and if you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed for you.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by my sister, Suzette Speaks, as we talk about LSU superstar Angel Reese and her traumatic year, as she talks and shares a lot about what she has undergone and what she has endured this year. I want to go to what the crew members are saying on this, Suzette, because, you know, when we look at these conversations again, you bringing up about the treatment of women. We got to, I mean, the larger conversation about black women in professional sports is still something that is like an evolving conversation. And I remember listening to a sportscaster one time. I don't know whether it was on this, I can't remember whether he was on this show or another show, but he made the point that sports fans can be some of the most racist fans that you ever come across, right? They love you when you win and they tear you apart. And it's a very, very like fickle relationship that we have with our our very, favorite sports athletes, right? And of course we know
the attacks can be a little different, but go ahead and finish your point.
Yeah, the attacks could be, look,
yes.
and you're right. And I mean, just going back to that piece from the LA Times, when I read that piece, I'm like, what are you trying to do? Just from a writer's perspective, what are you trying to convey here? Like, what are you trying to set up? Why would you put a narrative out there like you got this lily white and this dirty black, and putting it, and then you go back and say, you know what, I shouldn't have used that language. Like, bro, this is such a hypersensitive, political, emotional, social space that we find ourselves in this country. And it always blows me away that in 2024, people can still say that the most dumbass stuff out of their mouth, or they write it on paper. And it's like,
they believe it, Farajii. That's the scary part. Like, this person who has this power of the pen wrote this again in his imagination. This was the world that he created, that this is the good team and that's the bad team. And what is it based on? Racial tropes, sexist tropes. I want to give credit to the team member I was just trying to reference. Her name is Haley Van Lilf, and she is a white member of the LSU team. And like many others, she deemed the article, quite frankly, as racist. She says, quote, "We do have a lot of Black women on this team, and unfortunately, the bias does exist still today. And a lot of people that are making these comments are being racist towards my teammates," said Van Lilf. So there are many like her who are standing in the gap, who also see this for what it is. Again, anti-women, anti-Black, racial tropes, sexist tropes that make this person, again, this writer has said, y'all read his apology. I wanted to quote it here, but y'all read his apology. Y'all read his apology.
All right. I got it. I read his apology and I was just like, that's why I'm asking questions. And let me tell you, for those who may not understand how media works in this space, no writer can print anything without first going through an editor.
2-3 hands. Yes, sir.
It goes through at least 2 or 3. I'm going Shannon Sharp with it goes through at least 2 or 3 hands.
Exactly. So somebody had to prove it above him and above him. Yeah, exactly.
So then you have the editor-in-chief who has to, because, people respond very quickly via social media, who has to go back and say, we shouldn't have said that. Who did that? But you have the editor-in-chief, but then you have a number of other like managing editors and folks. People, this is a process. This is a process. If I come on here, you come on here, Suzette, and we say some straight off the side of our neck.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's it could be a different show.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for your service. We'll appreciate you. There's the door. Yeah, no.
Or you have a different
somebody
host.
had to approve this. Some people saw this.
There has to be.
People in their newsroom, people in their editorial staff saw this and thought it was okay for him to print this and to say what he said. So again, there's a lot of bias there, and we got to acknowledge it and call it out.
Call it out. Olivia, you checked in, and how did it get past the editor? Publications are under pressure and are competing against the Shade Room and other celebrity gossip type of news outlets, right? Like TMZ and all of those places, right? And I agree that people want to get the story first, but sometimes in the pursuit of getting something first, you may be missing some key information. There may be the wrong context you put the story in. It is important that you try to gather as much of the information. Now, some of these things, work in the news, especially when you're dealing with the day-to-day news, you're not going to get every single detail. You're not going to get all the ins and outs in history. Go ahead.
They knew what they was writing. And I agree with Robin in the comments. Thank you, Robin. She's like, yeah, this is not just, talking about their game or something that they did on the court. It's like personal attacks that are a little bit different. Let me see if I can find. I was just reading Robin's comment. Robin Welch,
thank you so much. Competitive. Is that it? The one you were saying?
Yes,
competitive
go ahead.
Is one thing. Yeah. I got you. Competitive is one thing. Being mentally abused is something else entirely. And it's coming from people not playing the game. And let me tell y'all, but see, this is the thing though. Here's the thing, Robin, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, and Suzette, but that's the culture right now. That's the culture right now. We love to see people fall. We love to throw dirt on people. We love to kick them while they down. And I get it. That's part of the culture right now, especially on social media. Come on, man. Like, let's not act like we all, some of us may engage in it too. We call people names. I mean, it can get very, very harsh. It can get very harsh. And so that's the culture right now. Like, we love to hear how people going back and forth. We love to if somebody's talking bad about Angel Reese, so be it. Somebody talking bad about Sha'Carri. I remember when Sha'Carri Richardson was going through her trials, going through her struggles. Man, oh man.
Mm-hmm. And it was piled on, and now everybody's back. Do we have time real quick before the break? Can we listen to Farajii Johnson? Just give her comments defending her teammate. Do we have that? And if not, maybe we can play it right after break.
Bro, let me tell you something. Everybody can have their opinion on Angel Reese, but y'all don't know her. Like, y'all don't know Angel Reese. I know Angel Reese. I know the real Angel Reese. And the person I see every day is a strong person. Is a caring, loving person, bro. The crown she wears is heavy, bro. She's the type of teammate that's going to make you believe in yourself. The leap that I took from my freshman to sophomore year, Angel gave me that confidence to go be a dog. Playing next to a dog every day. And, you know, just to see how the media ridicule her, went through our problems, but, like, this is my sister right here. And I'm so proud of her. Like, the media, y'all, how they like to twist and call her a villain and all of that, y'all don't know Angel, bro. And I'm just happy that I get to play with her. I get to be around her presence. Her energy is different. Like, she just made me a better player. She made me a better player, and that's what great players do.
I'll say something, too. I think, you know, Angel's one of the toughest people I've been around.
Facts.
People speak hate into her life. I've never seen people wish bad things on someone as much as her, and it does not affect her. She comes to practice every day. She lives her life every day. She lives how she wants to live, and she don't let nobody change that. And, you know, that's the key to life right there. Y'all do not get to her. Let me say it again. Y'all do not get to Angel Reese. So you might want to give it up. Throw the towel in because you're wasting your energy. So Angel's one of the toughest people I've been around.
Let me just say this, and that was, of course, Farajii, and I think, who was the name of
That's
the other player?
lady, Van Lil. Mm-hmm.
Van Lil. Let me just say this, because both of you and I work in media. People have a love-hate relationship with media. If I haven't learned a lot, anything, I've learned that as much as we hate media is as much as we love media. That's part of the game. And it's unfortunate that our little sister had to go through this, right? Like, she had the hard, traumatic year. It got to her. It did get to her. And it's okay to say, you know what? This stuff got to me, y'all. Like, for real. This got to me. Y'all got under my skin. But at the same time, this is part of the process. And I know, because nobody takes this walk unscathed. We all you gotta go through it. If you want to get to a certain level, if you're trying to be at the top of, whether it's the basketball game or whether any industry that you're trying to get it to the top of, be prepared for that level of opposition. We talk about the ops all the time in hip hop music, right? Oh, the ops. The ops are going to be there. It's part of the process. This is how you become who you are. And then this is how you determine what kind of character you really have. So it's unfortunate she's going through this, but I don't know what folks are expecting. I don't know what folks are expecting. This is sports. And sports is one of the last places, I think, in this country where, especially for white Americans, where they feel like we got to do diversity on a lot of other places, but in sports, y'all, and music, like we saw with country music and Beyonce, like, you can't take this. But with the dominance of black athletes in white spaces like NCAA or any other sports division, it's going to come with it. And you gotta be able to get through it. You just got to be able to get through it. Have good people around you. You got to have a strong mindset to say, you know what? I'm going to get through this each and every day. But NBA players go through it. NFL players go through it. People go through this all the time, especially in their pursuit to be the top of the game. So that's just something to think about. But look, we got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's continue the conversation. Plus, let's talk about the trials and struggles of Amanda Seales, the actress, the comedian, the entrepreneur, as she wages war not with white media, but with black media, as there have been 3 pieces written about her likability, as she talks about not being in certain spaces, especially when it comes to our culture. So we're going to have that conversation on the other side. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
As bad as Trump was, his economy was worse, and black America felt it the most. He cut health insurance while giving tax breaks to the wealthy and big business. As president, I put money in pockets and capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. There's a lot more to do, but we can do it together.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media and investment. This next generation social app has already raised $10 million and has just opened a new round to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by Suzette Speaks. Suzette, I want to kind of get your take on this because before we even talk about Amanda Seales, because I'm seeing people checking in, the crew. And crew members, I appreciate y'all, crew, because y'all bringing a lot of great thoughts to the conversation. But one of the crew members said, Suzette, that, let me see if I can find this comment. Well, Willie Fraser said, if hardship builds character, what do death threats do? That's
what I'm saying. It's like one thing to be criticized, so you're getting, the people's opinions, and the intent is to get better, or to challenge you to be a better athlete. This is different. When she talks about death threats, this is like on a whole nother level that I don't think many other athletes who are maybe non-Black experience, and I could be wrong. I would love to hear your feedback, guys watching. But yeah, there's another layer that unfortunately Black women experience that is more violent, that has that element of misogynoir, which is this anti-women, anti-Black womanness of it, to dehumanize, to levy threats of violence. That's not okay. That is kind of beyond the pale, even for sports. And again, I remember Dawn Staley talking about this with her team. This is not new, but teams that are predominantly made up of Black women tend to see more of this type of hate-filled speech than others. And it's not about character building when it reaches that level, right? These are threats. And it's because there's this sense, again, that something about them makes them less than, right? And that it's okay to dehumanize and diminish them, even beyond their talents, right? Them as human beings, something about them deserves to be, critiqued in such a vile way. So again, that comes from a mindset that these people are not as good as, or not the same as, or should not have the privilege of being on your TV every day, or making that 1.7 million in her NILs. I was looking up her network, and Farajii, all of them are millionaires. Thank you. And she's about to break the bank when she gets to WNBA as well, and endorsements as well. As you say, the media will have to pay attention to her, and it will allow her to get paid. But again, this we've seen it in Europe when it comes to like soccer and the type of hatred Black players get there, and it brings them to tears as to the anti-Blackness, and we're not past it, unfortunately. Here we've made a lot of progress, but again, for him to write this in this day and age, I don't know if it was for clickbait or what he thought he was going to accomplish, but the fact that he says he was using alliteration that went awry, no sir, you call them dirty debutantes. Think about that. That is, again, not a marginalization of their talent. It's who they are as people.
Yeah.
Bringing them low into a kind of a debased kind of state. And that's where, if it wasn't in your mind, you wouldn't have written it, sir.
That's true.
So we have to make sure we're distinguishing between what is a legitimate, sports gripe about your favorite athlete, to now dehumanizing language that is intended to justify this type of heinous language and treatment. It's not the same as character building. We got to be very careful between those two, distinguish those two.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. I agree with you. But, you know, unfortunately, the culture of sports right now and just the culture of the country, it's like uncontrolled. It's, you know, it's the boundaries have been are slowly breaking away. You know what I mean? Any type of political correctness is out the door. You know, some folks in the chat are saying, Suzette, that ever since Trump has came onto the scene and the way he is, his bombastic ways, that it opened the door for this type of talk. It has heightened, it has elevated the talk around race and violence and all of those things. But this is what we have to contend with.
I think there's so many, and there's so many contributory elements. I think one of them legitimately being the landscape that former President Trump has cultivated in terms of this kind of rhetoric that many would equate to, and some of what he's saying, white nationalism, and that it is making it okay in this new social media world we are in for others to follow suit. So I think that's a whole nother conversation, but I do think there's some valid points to that a lot of what his leadership kind of presented as legitimate kind of ways of thinking that are borderline, you know, kind of disgusting in a way towards your
you know what,
brown, black immigrant people, that it made it far more easy for some who already had these type of feelings to now feel emboldened behind the keyboard to express them.
Absolutely. Lori Parks, you said this is where all the pro NBA players and ex-players should speak up.
Well, a lot of people, I'm glad, because that's what I'm saying. Not everybody was on this train. So many articles were written. So many people were in the comments in the chat. It's like I say, Twitter, it was like a, you know.
Right.
Comment, tweet, or X for X. I don't know what it's called now, but it was people going to bat for her, because why do Black women especially face this much hate? And again, I think there's rooted anti-Blackness, anti-Black.
I'm about to say, come on, Suzanne.
It's so deep. It's so deep. It's like, no, for real. And we'll get to it when we talk about Amanda, because it's her own publications. Black media, 3 articles now have been written about the trouble with Amanda Seales. So it's interesting to watch.
And you know what? I'm glad we're taking a break, because I'm glad we're taking a break, because to see that 3 articles from 3 so-called Black publications are blasting a Black woman. And we're talking about Amanda Seales.
Who stands for certain things, and we can talk about it after.
Who stands for certain things.
Yeah.
Blasted, and also we're going to share with you what her response is to those 3 articles as well, as she posted it on her Instagram. Folks, stay with us. We still got a lot more of the culture coming up at you here on the Black Star Network. Don't go anywhere.
As bad as Trump was, his economy was worse, and Black America felt it the most. He cut health insurance while giving tax breaks to the wealthy and big business. As president, I put money in pockets and capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. There's a lot more to do, but we can do it together.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media and investment. This next generation social app has already raised $10 million and has just opened a new round to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by my sister, Suzette Speaks, licensed attorney, host of the Suzette Speaks Show, and one of our great political contributors here on the show. And wanted to continue the conversation talking about the great scrutiny of Black women. This has been a show that, thanks to Suzette, my sister, always keeping us up to date, but this has certainly been a show about Black women and making sure that women's bodies, women's voices are not forgotten and are heard loud and clear. So, Suzette, I have to say thank you for always bringing your insight and expertise and keeping us up to date on these things. But this last story I wanted to share comes from you, where you talked about, you said Farajii, and y'all, I'm gonna just tell y'all behind the scenes, Suzette be like, we text her and she'd be like, Farajii, we need to talk about this. And I'd be like, okay. I just let it. I'd be like, okay, let's talk about it. Let's go.
I love it. I appreciate it.
You bring this piece up, man, and I've certainly been kind of keeping my eyes on this, but I'm glad that you brought this piece up around Amanda Seales, and her I guess her trials, her troubles that she has been undergoing as a result of her being so outspoken. She's outspoken, of course, about Palestine and Israel. She's outspoken about domestic issues here in the country. She's outspoken about a lot of things, cultural things. She's an actress. She's a comedian. She's a writer. She's an entrepreneur. She's been in Hollywood for many, many years. And even though she's on some of the most successful shows, like her last big project, of course, she was a part of as part of the cast of Insecure on HBO. She has not, bit her tongue in talking about how she feels and what she speaks. Well, it may have gotten her into some hot water and some level of being isolated and quote unquote, some people say blackballed, other people say whitewashed, but she's been isolated, right? And she went on on social media to talk about how she felt like when it comes down to these award shows, she's not invited to the party. She's not at the table.
She was invited to host, but not invited to them, right? During COVID, she hosted, what was it, BET Awards or one of these, and has not been invited to, her initial post was like, I have never been invited to, Black Girls Rock, Black women in entertainment brunches and all these things going on, NAACP Image Awards and things like this, that you would think someone of her caliber, as you stated, you've been around this business for quite some time. It is like, okay, we can get to Amanda and what she got to say. Let's go. We can get to Amanda. But it started with a post about why am I not being included, especially in Black spaces. So that was her first post. And then now she's followed it up with this post.
And this post, because as a result of her saying she wasn't invited, 3 think pieces or op-eds came out from 3 different Black publications. Essence, The Griot, and The Root.
Questioning
all 3
why
go ahead, come on, Suzette,
is not being included and making statements. And again, these are opinion pieces, right? And they're written as if they're kind of founded on a presumption that she's not likable, or that one in even just the article's title, that she has too much hubris. And that's what's to blame. If you're not likable, you're not being invited to the parties. It's something that you're doing, right? And basically turning it back to her. And I think, again, the power of the media, as you talked about, can make or break you. This woman has over, I think it's almost like 1 million followers. Somebody's buying her sold out comedy tour. Somebody likes what she got going on based on her traction across her social media. I think she has 142,000 subs I saw on YouTube. Somebody's listening, and she's unapologetically Black with it. Let's put that as that underlying foundation of what she stands for and what she brings light to through her platforms are issues that she wants to both elevate conversations in the Black community on, as well as to challenge the Black community on. So this is her way of service to our community in terms of the growth, enlightenment, empowerment thereof. That's what I'm kind of my interpretation of what she stands for.
Absolutely. Let me tell you very quickly, then we're going to play her response. The first op-ed was one of the op-eds from Essence. The title is, "It's time to admit that being liked is more important than being good at your job." Damn.
I got to read this. Can I drop this in the chat? Y'all got to read it. Just look up Essence Amanda Seals.
Yeah. The second one from the Griot, "Amanda Seals is not a victim of anything but her own hubris." And the third one from the Root is, "If everyone says the same thing about Amanda Seals, could she be the problem?"
My problem with that headline is everyone saying the same thing about Amanda Seals. I mean, she is just come out and said these are hit pieces. But what is scary is they're coming from predominantly Black publications. So people are questioning all throughout, her following, where is this coming from? Is it because of what you're speaking about, or the truth to power that you've chosen to speak, and who is therefore trying to marginalize and even shut you down, as you called it, possibly blackball you from the very industry that you've made a name for yourself in and has been your bread and butter. But those of us who watched her over the years, I have seen that question. Like, I think she should be more successful. If you want to call it, let me rephrase that, like, be featured more than she has been, or worked more than she has been. She is successful. So let me clarify that. But to have her not be a part of so many other projects, I think that she probably would fit well with. People are questioning why. And again, she's not a shut up and act type lady, shut up and play ball. She's I'm going to tell you how I really think. I'm not going to allow myself, even with her time at The Real, she was a host on the talk show The Real, and there was fallout from that based on, you can go back into some of the history, but there's this kind of making it a almost like a presumption that people don't like her, or that she is the cause of.
She's the problem.
Let her speak for herself. Let me.
Let's bring it up.
My girl is successful.
Absolutely. Let's play her response as she posted on IG. Here's Amanda Seals responding to those three pieces.
Had enough. What the fuck is wrong with y'all? Really? 3 pieces. 3 from 3 people I have never met in my life, from 3 publications that are supposed to be about uplifting Black people, which is all I have dedicated my life to doing. Shit! What hubris do I have? You people literally cannot stand that someone has studied and is speaking on what they studied, that someone has read and is speaking on what they read. You can't stand that someone loves us, that someone loves us so much that their passion is so exemplary and is exuding through the phone that it touches people who literally have never felt love that much and they don't know how to process it. That's what you're feeling. I want to send all the love to everyone who has shown me love. But you people who are continuing to attempt to break me down, you will not break me. You cannot break me. I am loved. I am anointed. I am touched. I am working through the blood of our ancestors. You will not break me. And it is so sad that you are so broken that this is the effort that you would take to try and get some clout. And you know what? Let's say I did get broken. Y'all will be the first ones to be like, see, y'all be doing too much. No, big up to all my strong Black women who are supporting other strong Black women and every other person supporting us. We love you. The rest of y'all can suck up.
Hold up, Amanda. Hold up.
Actually, she didn't even say it.
No, she didn't say it. She didn't say it. I'm only playing.
She actually stopped the video. So you at least it up to your imagination. What did she want us to stop?
Listen, she's one of the most vocal people in Hollywood. It's better that you hear it from her mouth.
I can't be mad at the sister. Let me tell you why. I cannot be mad at the sister. First thing, you should not be like these 3 places should be ashamed of themselves, to be honest, because it is so against the culture. And I think this is the part of the reason, and you tell me if I'm crazy thinking of this, Suzette and crew, y'all tell me. Part of the reason is there are some people, Black folks in Hollywood or in these spaces that want to be the gatekeepers. they want to be the ones to say, this is the culture of Black America, this is not the culture of Black America. Even when we started this show, The Culture, I wanted to be super clear. I'm not the arbiter of the culture. I'm not saying what is good and what is bad. I'm saying let's have a conversation about it, and then we decide or together how we should either keep certain elements of our culture or change certain elements. But there are gatekeepers within Black celebrity circles and Black Hollywood that don't want certain voices to be heard, right? If you have a different set of politics, that's always at the root. If you speak out against certain personalities, oh no, don't do that. We saw what happened with Monique, right? Like, these are the constant challenges. And that's why when Club Shay Shay drops an interview and a Black person comes on, people tune in, because why? You really hear the stories. You hear
I would love for her to go on Shay Shay. I would love.
Let me just say you, Amanda, let me tell you, here's one Black media that you can definitely
come on through, sis. Come on through.
We'll book you on a Wednesday, and Suzette and I
would love
Amanda,
to.
You ain't got to worry about no other Black media. You can come on here. Angel Reese, you can come on over here.
Let's go. It's true, because the part that when you point out Monique, it's also the Black woman that doesn't allow herself to be exploited and doesn't take crap. Let's put that out there too. And I think Amanda, embodies that. She will walk away from a project if it's not serving her or her mission. She will let you know, I'm worth this, not that. She has had her, a comedy special. She has done tours. She's been around this business for quite some time to understand, like, there's a cost to, speaking up and speaking out. And I think what is the discussion I've been seeing online with regards to these pieces is what's really behind them, coming from Black media, Black spaces, supposedly.
Yep.
And talking about likability. If you read that Essence article, I was in a whole group chat about it with friends when it first came out, because we were like, what is this saying? That, do we want women to be
look, it's saying, you know what it is. Come on,
you're dismissing her talent summarily and stating, well, if she was just a little sweeter, a little likable, she would have gotten so much more. I was like, what are
and guess what though? But see, guess what though,
Suzette?
Suzette, here's what we're promoting. We're promoting conformity. We're promoting being homogenized, like milk. You know what I'm saying? You're taking out the essence of the person. We don't want to rock the boat, because when you get up in certain places, when your social standing or your financial standing, and I hate this part of the culture, this is pure capitalism, that your worth is always dictated by how much is in your bank account, right? So we're promoting that if you're going to be a part of this sacred group, if you're going to be with us, then you're going to have to learn how to keep the secrets. You're going to have to learn how to not be so vocal. And look, let me tell you, that type of stuff is what's killing Black culture in this country, because we have, and I can honestly say this network and this show in particular, we've come across literally every different type of Black person. You got your Pan-Africanists, you got your nationalists, you got folks who are Republican, you got folks who are Democrats, you got your socialists, you got all of these different types of schools of thought, and folks have conversations. I see it in the chat every day. There's some disagreements and all of this type of stuff. But at the end of the day, this is Black America.
Right.
Let's stop acting like Black America is monolithic. Let's stop acting like Black America, everybody thinks the same. Everybody is tuned into, oh, we don't need no Amanda Seales. We need an Amanda Seales.
Damn, I'm on it. Go back to her original post. The original post she made on Instagram or her other platforms was saying, if it wasn't for her following, she would think she wasn't doing nothing. And I think as we get ready to wrap, that, those of us who are in the community who are standing outside, the grain, or walking our own line, or you too quote unquote woke, or too, vocal and bold. It's not you, it's them. right? You may not be invited to the parties. You may not get invited to the award shows. And you can just put that on whatever level you live on, right? You're not a celebrity.
Right.
Think about that. The sacrifice that she has been making so that, you know, truth gets out there, or her version of, you know, what Black people should really be thinking about, focused on learning, encouraging, you know, new perspectives and insights on what are considered Black issues. There are people who are going to shun that, and they don't want to be afraid of what you might say at the party or on the mic or anything else. So that can, in fact, interrupt your so-called, you know, career trajectory. But she's also done what she's doing independent of that machine. So kudos to her for standing her ground. But
absolutely,
it's cost her a lot.
But see, this the machine. This is crazier part too, Suzanne. I think you know it, and I know it. The machine is sustained by other Black folks.
Mm-hmm.
So, like in these pieces where you talk about the likability of a sister, when you talk about when you say that is because of her hubris, you say, oh, she's too proud. You know what I'm saying? That's
they
going back
want
to
to
what you
humble
said. That's
Black
the
women
trope
more than
that's
anybody
been told to
else.
us.
Yes.
That's the same trope that's been told to us by white people when we were coming up from chattel slavery up to this point. You too proud because we look you in the eye.
Know your place. Stay right there. Where you think? Who do you think you are?
Who do you think you are?
Y'all, we gotta end this show, y'all.
Look at that. I'm just saying, like, and I know we got the end of the show, but let me just say, like, look at how and we can talk about, oh, the white man is this or the white man is that. You don't need no white person around you when it's already in your thinking.
Farajii.
Old school slave mentality. That slave master slave relationship. That's what we're trying to uproot.
The scary part is doing it to one another. That's the scary part.
Come on.
The space that we're supposed to have, you know, our conversations with one another in a loving, uplifting way is directly making headlines that could possibly get her, quote, canceled. Even though she'll probably say, you can't never cancel me, but you get what I'm saying?
But let's do this. Let's do this.
What is it designed to do to her reputation? Like, that's crazy. Like, I don't know.
And
we gotta go, y'all. We gotta go.
I know, but let me just say this to add to that. If you are afraid of a sister like an Amanda Seales, you may not agree with her. You may not like how she puts the information. But the point is, if you are afraid of the fire that she has in her heart and her spirit, right? Then learn how to be like, you know what? You can stay up front because, you know, some of our people, man, look, I've been in spaces and places where them fiery individuals, you bring them out when you want to tear down something.
We know how to
you have you got the diplomatic Black folks. We
They know how to say it another kind of way. Y'all, it's been fun. It's been amazing. Shout out to the chat. Love to everybody watching Team Replay.
You bring out the Amanda Seales when you're ready to knock.
Everybody, we got to go. Y'all follow me on all social media. Suzanne Speaks on all social media. You can check out my YouTube channel. Please subscribe. Please subscribe. Please come over and subscribe. I got to go because they go cuss us out and we don't get off this thing. It's 5 o'clock, but we appreciate and love each and every one of you. Thank you so much for holding us down here on the Roland Martin Black Star Network. Thank you, everybody. We love you. Okay, I'll see you next week. Bye.
Suzanne closing me out. Suzanne, this is why I love you so much. Anyway, all right, y'all. I appreciate y'all. Follow Suzanne. Make sure y'all check her out. And we truly appreciate you, Suzanne. Thank you for being so good for the culture.
Thank you, everybody.
Oh, man. Folks, that's going to do it for us. Thank you so much, Culture Crew, for always riding with us, being a part of the conversation. Amanda, Angel, come on over to Black Star Network. We got a place for you to say what you need to say and say how you want to say it. Make sure y'all go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app for free. Follow us on social media at Black Star Network. Also, follow me, yours truly, on social media. You can find me at The Real Farajii on Instagram and at Farajii on the X platform. And I would love to connect with you and continue to build the community. Stay tuned. Up next, 6 p.m., Roland Martin Unfiltered. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here, only here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network. Have a great evening. Talk to you soon. Peace.